In recent times, I have read various stories of conversions of famous, popular people, such as actors, writers, politicians, showmen, etc. They have come to Christianity or Catholicism after a spiritual journey, some accompanied by a spiritual director, usually a priest, other by a personal search, especially through reflection on the question of meaning. A convinced atheist, such as the actress Jennifer Fullwheeler, for example, who consistently with her atheism saw no meaning in the world and had even attempted suicide to anticipate the end of this nonsense, changed her mind and converted when her son was born. She perceived that it was not possible that her son's existence could be cancelled by inevitable death. Thinking back on her fate, she asked herself, what if it were all true? In his testimony of his conversion, he said, I noticed something, however. Almost all the people who had impressed me with their ability to defend the faith with reason alone, both famous authors and the people online, were Catholics. The more I paid attention, the more I noticed that the Catholic intellectual tradition was one of the greatest in the world. I started reading books by Catholic authors. I couldn't help but admit that these people seemed to have an understanding of the world and the human experience that I had never encountered before. They clung as firmly to science and the material world as the atheists, but they also possessed a knowledge of the movements of the human soul that rang as true in the depths of my being. Conversion occurs when something reveals itself to you as true, good, and beautiful. Among the many very interesting conversions stories, the one that fascinated me the most is that of the philosopher Anthony Flew, known as the most famous atheist, a proponent of the idea that we must all be atheists as long as it can be demonstrated that God exists. For him, the demonstration came from reflecting on the complexity of the universe that can only be originated by a superior mind. After half a century of professing and defending atheism, he became a deist through the study of DNA. I believe that the material of DNA has shown, with the almost incredible complexity of the arrangement needed to generate life, that intelligence must have been so involved in making these different elements work together. So he argues that it is not rationally possible to deny the existence of God after observing the structure of life. In this regard, Professor Piero Bucci, at a scientific congress on probability in the sciences, stated, suppose I go into a prehistoric cave and I find engraved on a wall an inscription, for example, in the middle of the journey of our life, I found myself in a dark forest. that the straight path was lost. And suppose I tell my colleagues, in that cave, due to water erosion, the solidification of carbonates, and the action of the wind, the first triplet of the Divine Comedy was produced by chance. Wouldn't they take me for a fool? Yet they would not object if I told them that the first living cell, which has an information content equal to 5,000 times the entire Divine Comedy, was formed by chance. The structure of a cell is 5,000 times more complex than the entire Divine Comedy, and we think is random. Conversion is like a illumination. We change when something reveals itself to us as true and at the same time good and beautiful. The conversion of which John the Baptist speaks to us in today's Gospel, on the other hand, has another tenor, the same one that has guided for centuries all preaching based on spiritual terrorism. That is, on wanting to force people to convert under threat of terrible punishment, hell. John the Baptist, as we have heard, speaks of imminent wrath, of an axe laid at the roots of trees, of unquenchable fire. Poor John the Baptist, he hasn't got a single one right. He announces the arrival of a terrible chastisement, and instead Jesus, the mildest being who ever lived, appears. He wants to prevent Jesus from being baptized by him, but Jesus tells him, "Let it be for now." And immediately after the baptism, instead of hearing God's wrath thundering, we hear instead the voice of someone who, out of contentment, says, "This is my Son, whom I love." And so, instead of a justified God sending his emissary with axe in hand, as foretold by the Baptist, we find a God melted into a jujubes, that is, totally moved. And after a while, tired of Jesus' inaction, which in short was not accomplishing anything he, the Baptist, had foretold, he began to doubt and sent his disciples to ask Jesus, "But are you the Messiah? Who is to come? Or must we wait for another?" He had strong doubts that his cousin Jesus was the Messiah. I think that we, in Jesus' place, would not been really hard, and I think that we, in Jesus' place, would have been really hard, and would have felt betrayed by a family member. Instead, Jesus said of him, "Greater than John the Baptist has never arisen from among those born of women." With the arrival of Jesus, everything also becomes superfluous. Prophecy and the law give way to Jesus. On Mount Tabor, the Transfiguration, Moses, the law, and Elijah, the prophecy, disappear, and they saw no one but Jesus. Peter sensed that truth, beauty, and goodness had been manifested there, and went so far as to say, "Let us make 3 tents here. Let us stay here. Where also could we go?" Of tents, however, dear Peter, only one was needed, because the other 2 were no longer needed. Only Jesus remained. Conversion, it is a radical upheaval of one's life, not a maquilling, a light operation that does not affect the person. Coming to celebrate the Eucharists is not one of the many weekly activities, like going to work, to swimming or dance class, to the health club or visiting someone. It is not something optional, but it is decisive. With Him, we are. Without Him, we are not. The claim that Jesus makes is absolute. I am the way. Without me, we go nowhere. I am the truth. Outside of me, there is only falsehood. I am life. Outside of me, there is only death. It is the intuition of this truth, beauty, and goodness that impels us to conversion, not the threats of hell. Finally, John the Baptist, after thundering, "Convert yourselves," to all, understood that he too had to be converted, to abandon the God he had in mind and embrace the God of Jesus Christ. The God of Jesus Christ. And I think he too, the cousin of God, must have melted into a jujubes. That is, he was very moved when he realized that there is no point in being God's cousin if we are not his lovers.